Miss Chris?
There?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Awesome. So we're going to do a Q&A, and since I started with the reading, we're going to start with Anne, questions for Anne. So if you want to put your hands up if you have a question for Anne.
Okay. You were the first hand I saw.
Just yell loud and we'll repeat your question.
So, going back to earlier in your work with the werewolf series, you had spent a lot of time developing the relationship between Damon and Janelle. In the later books, obviously Janelle has passed along with Briggs. You had written the story of Damon finding another love interest. And I was wondering if there was something that had prompted you to do that, or if this had been planned all along.
So they can hear what she's asking. I said because she's going to have a hard time doing that.
Had I planned for Damon to have another love interest? That was all your fault, all of you guys, because you kept asking me after Queen. He says, "What happens to Damon after Janelle's gone? What is he going to do?" And it took me several years to figure it out, but I did, and I wrote the story, and then you all got mad at me. But when it came down to saying, who could make a life with him and would understand what she meant, and that she would always be his first love, and his heart would always belong in part to her. Surreal was the only choice, because she also loved him and loved Janelle. So that's how they ended up together, and Janelle had foreseen that this was the possibility and could happen. But yeah, everyone kept asking the question, and finally you got the answer. Okay. Question for Patty.
All the way in the back of the baby.
Do we get to know what happened to Elaine Gordon's mother?
Do we get to know what happens to Elaine?
That's not a character in her books.
Yeah, you have to do I can only answer my questions. So, but we'll let Anne answer that one.
No, there are some things that when the problem solvers, Stavros Sanguinati, when he takes care of things, you don't get answers, and you don't find bodies.
Okay, good question. All right.
For Patty.
Go ahead.
Silly question. You guys aren't that singer, Bishop Briggs.
No, we're not. You're the second person that mentioned that to us this trip. That would be really funny. We go, Bishop Briggs is going to be at the Powell Cedar Crossing store, and see what kind of see what kind of response we get. I think they'd be really disappointed. I can't sing.
Oh yeah, I mean we could try it. We could drive the crowds all the way to Montana.
Right, there we go. Right. So a question for Anne.
Yes.
Are we going to see more of Vicki and her crew?
I don't know yet. They may be back. They have the potential for so much trouble, and so I haven't.
You just ask your question.
If Vicki and Aggie and the rest of the group from Lake Silence were going to be coming back, and I sent them a memo and said, do you guys have another idea? Or more importantly, have you guys found another body? And so far they haven't found the body yet, so they haven't told me. Question for Patty.
Okay, with the red stripe in your hair. Yes, that's you. Yes.
Are we going to get to spend some time with Anna and Mercy together? Because right now they just mentioned each other, but I kind of want to hear them talk.
Oh, are you going to get to spend some time with Anna and Mercy together? I will say probably not in a book, but I discovered this wonderful thing called short story. And I could do a lot of things in short story I could never do in a book. So I'm not going to say no, and I'm not going to say the idea hasn't occurred to me. I will say that the right story hasn't occurred to me yet. But that is certainly a possibility. Thank you. Question for Anne. Yes.
Are you writing more books about the original others, or are you just going to move on to the first person?
I don't know. They never tell me these things. The question is, am I going to write more stories about the original group of the others, the Lakeside Courtyard? And I don't know yet, because I just finished the first draft of Wild Country, which is a story set in Bennett. And for those of you who have read the Lakeside, remember that Bennett was a town where some of the people were going to resettle. So I've just finished first draft of that before I packed to come on the tour with Patty. And what happens after that is anybody's guess.
Okay, we've just been given the 5-minute warnings. That means one question for me, one question for Anne, and then we're going to go to signatures. Okay? So, question for me. I'll do this shirt, right? Yes, you. Yes.
I want to know, how soon are we going to find any more stories about Tom and his little witch?
Okay, how soon are we going to find more stories about Tom and his witch? They're the characters from Seeing Eye, the short story. And I was supposed to write that book last year, and I lost a book last year. And right now I have contracts I'm working on a Mercy book, I have another Mercy book, and an Alpha Omega and a Mercy. That's pretty far down the line. And hopefully I can work that Moira and Tom book in there at some point when I get far enough ahead. And I seem to be doing Find It writing right now, which is really awesome. So the chances are really good. But what I will say is don't expect it until you see on my Facebook page, where I'll tell you when I'm working on that. But it will definitely be after the next Mercy book that I'm writing right now, Storm Curse, that I'm writing right now. And a question for Anne.
Yes.
Actually, this is kind of for both of you. What process do you go through to find your awesome title?
I call up my editor and say, Anne, I have another book. You have to give me a title.
Yeah. Although I start with my agent and go, they need suggestions. And actually, it was my agent who came up with Wild Country, which marketing loved and my editor loved. My title suggestion was The Good, the Bad, and the Furry. They didn't even consider it.
Mike always wanted to do one that was called Flea Bitten. So we didn't let him do any more suggestions after that. All right, so we're going to turn this over to the people who are in charge and know what they're doing. And Peter, I saw that. I think he's just coming around. I hope. Peter, come back. He's looking for this. Well, let's do one more question while we're standing here. Brittany, go ahead. Yes. Okay, so the question is, Alpha Omega started as a short story. What caused me to make it a book and a series? Ultimately, my editor loved it. Ann Sowers loved it. She started out with, you're going to write a story about what character from Call? Who is he? And she liked it so much that after she read the short novella before it was in print, she called me up and she said, Patty, could you do another series based on these characters? And I said, sure. and jumped right in it. And that's how that happened. And I will tell you, if you are writers and you want to start a series, don't start it with a novella. Because I started with it in a terrible place where 90,000 people bought the first printing of that 4-novella book. And so 90,000 people had already read the short story. So I didn't feel like it was okay to use that as the first quarter of the book. I also didn't feel like it was okay to take the short story and expand it, because the short story I thought was really good as it stood. I didn't see that expanding it was going to help that story at all. So I had to write the first book in a series that wasn't really the first book in the series, and carry the people who hadn't read the novella along, so that they didn't feel like they were left out and didn't have anything to go on. And it's at the same time not bore the people who had read the initial novella. And it didn't help that the novella, because I had written it not planning on writing a book, ended with a, oh, now we're going to Montana. So that's why I had to pick it up right there at the end of the novella. So don't do that. Okay, one more question for Ann Bishop.
Yes, in the back. Yes.
So, where did you get your inspiration for writing the Black Jewel series?
For who?
For writing the Black Jewel series.
Where did you get your inspiration for writing the Black Jewel series?
I've been curious about that for a very long time.
Oh, it was no single thing. It was a process of small pieces, small inspirations, reading lots of epic fantasy where the bad wizard always has minions, but then wondering, what happens if you have a world built on a dark culture? And it has to have schools. It has to have the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. It has to have society. It has to have a moral code. Who would they be like? And then also that question of the strong alpha male. What if he is the sex that is the secondary sex, the one that serves in the way, because I was reading a lot of Regency romances at the time, and you always had that flip of the women were always the ones who were in danger, that they could be divorced without any cause, they could be locked away without any cause, and the men got to do everything. And I said, what if you have the alpha male and you flip the rules on him? What happens then? And those were just two of the small things that over like 3 years just kept building until the characters took shape. And when the three main male characters came together and I had the father and the two sons, that's when everything clicked and I had the Black Jewels.
Awesome, thank you so much, you guys are wonderful.